It's the third round of the tournament, and 3 out of 3, I'm feeling really good, and I'm going to play with black against a really tricky guy. Let's see how it goes. My opponent plays e4, and as you know, I'm a French player. If they play e4, I play the French, unless I prepare before and I see that my opponent plays a really annoying line. I'm going to play the French whatsoever because it's quite a good opening. Let's set for blitz. So he played knight on f3, and now I'm playing normally and I play d5, which I mean is the best move and it's the point of the French. You play with this strategy, trying to have a solid strategy but also an aggressive one, trying to play c5 and having a bit of control of the center with the pawn on d5, which is supported. My opponent push and I play c5. Now, at this point, I already knew something wild was going to happen. Because in my chess club, I play against a guy which is pretty good. He's also playing online. I think he's around 2000 on chess. And every time we play this line, and when this position occurs, usually people play before. Now, before is the Queen's Gambit. This is a good gambit and is the most played move in this position at Grandmaster levels. So it's not a dubious gambit whatsoever. Although I think you need to be really prepared before playing this, because sometimes it's not so easy to attack black. It can be really solid. So I play the best move, which is taking the pawn. I'm not even so scared because, as I said, I played this position many times. I also studied some lines, so I'm pretty much okay. And my opponent plays d4. Now, usually they play e3. And then they play, let's say, c3, d4, something like that. Although, if they play d4, we just transpose, so it's not a big deal, honestly. I play knight on c6, and now he played a3, and we transpose, as I said. So in this position, you can take the pawn, or you can play, for example, bishop on d7, a developing move. In my experience, it's not the best thing to take this pawn because white is going to get a ton of activity. So I play bishop on d7. Now white take, and I take with the bishop we check. Now you might think this is a really bad position for white, but actually white has quite a lot of activity, and for black is not easy to castle actually. White plays c3. And now I have to decide between two moves. Bishop on e7 and bishop on a5. Now, I'm not prepared for bishop on e7, although looks like a logical move, but I always played bishop on a5. People don't know this line, and it's a pretty good one, honestly. It's the second best move. So, bishop on a5, and the point of this is that I'm pretty much not going to castle because I removed another defender of my position, and if I castle, white has everything. Let's say knight on g5, queen on h5, bishop on d3 is going to destroy me. And the point of this move is that I keep putting pressure on this pawn, so I'm going to play rook on c8, for example, and after that a6, knight on a7, and there is a lot of pressure on this pawn, maybe also knight on b5. So it's definitely an interesting line. And at this point, my opponent probably was surprised and play queen on c2. What's another good thing about this line is that people who play Queen's Gambit usually are going to attack the people after the castle, But with this line, if you don't actually castle, you don't have the same plans, you need to change them. So queen on c2 is not good because it gives me a target. As I said, this pawn is weak. So if you put a queen behind it, it's also weaker. For this reason I played rook on c8, which is the best move and it's a really good move. Also, I might threaten in the future to play knight on b4. And in this position my opponent played bishop on d3, which obviously it's a mistake. And yeah, it's probably a losing one. At this point, it means that I can play knight on b4, and again I think he was surprised in the opening. So the queen is under attack, you can't really take the pawn because you lose the queen. Let's say you take, I take. Yeah, you can take the rook maybe, but whatever. I could also take this pawn. And if you take the bishop, I take with check and you lose everything. So he played queen on d2 and now I take the bishop. Usually the light square bishop is a really strong attacker in this position, so if I can remove it, I'm more than happy. And now I play again the best move, which is a tricky one, and I'm glad I found it because it's really annoying. I played a6. a6 has a point, a really strong one, and is that you can castle. You can't castle because if you do that, bishop on b5, and you lose the exchange. So I'm just threatening to win an exchange, which basically prevent white from castling. That's why a6 is such a good move. And my opponent can't even move. He can't move the knight because I take with check. Maybe he can move the rook, but whatever, it's already good. And if he moves the bishop, I mean bishop on d2, which is the best move. I keep developing pieces. I'm up a piece. I had a couple of bishop. I'm pretty good. He decided to attack my queen with bishop on g5, which, I mean, I don't think it's quite a great move, because I don't have to play f6, for example. I don't have to play knight on e7. If I play knight on e7, I just pin it. I can keep being really aggressive and playing queen on c7, which, again, it's the best move, and he needs to go back with the bishop because it's pretty much the only way to defend the pawn. You could try rook on a3, but I don't know, looks a really wide move. The computer is suggesting to play h6. Let's say go back this way. And now, still bishop on b5 and you're not going to castle. So he played bishop on d2, which is a logical move, defending the pawn again. And I play knight on e7. Now, this is not the best move. I should have played bishop on b5. And I didn't do that because I thought it was trickier, just to develop, and if you castle you still fall into this. But I mean, at this point it's obvious that he's aware of this threat, so I should just play bishop on b5 instead of just trying to play to be tricky. Because if I play bishop on b5, I'm sure that is not going to castle. So that was imprecise from me. And I play knight on e7, and he plays c4. Now c4 is a pretty bad move, and I knew that. I was sure it was a bad move. And now I can pretty much decide between two lines. Computer is in 3 lines. Yeah, because I missed another one. But what I saw was, I could take the bishop before, or I could take on c4. Now, if I take on c4, bishop can take, and the queen is under attack. I take the queen, and he takes. I take the bishop, and I have a pawn on d3. Which, in my opinion, was just a bad pawn. I thought it was a target. And if we see this line, let's say play this, bishop takes on a5, best move. I take the queen, and I mean, you could also take the bishop, we check actually, but it's pretty much the same thing. You take, bishop takes, rook take, and now it's -7, but why? Well, let's say that white plays... I thought about this move actually. Why is that bad? I guess you give a check and you take a pawn, so it's not that easy to win this pawn. So that makes sense. And threatening rook on c1. So yeah, that makes sense, but I thought that my decision was better. Another move you could play is queen take on c4, because the queen is hanging, so they have to take it. So they take, and at this point you don't take with the rook because otherwise the rook take. You can't take with the bishop because after I take the queen there is the check on c1 and you lose the rook. So I take with check, and I take, and I take with the pawn. The pass pawn, it's a really good position, but I missed the fact that I could take with the queen. I just thought that the bishop was hanging. I play bishop take, which obviously is not losing, is still a pretty good move. And after you take, I guess, with the knight, because you want to develop pieces, you can just take the pawn. So I'm up another pawn, and in this position I have a lot of things that could die. h6 is the best move, preventing knight on g5, which I shouldn't done that, honestly, but yeah, I still decided to be really tricky and played bishop on b5, which is not the best move for a simple reason. I play bishop on b5 so he can't castle, and my opponent castle. Yeah, it's bad. It's a bad move, but not because of bishop b5. It's because I can still play h6, and my position is just really good because I have the pass pawn. You can't really do too much about that. But I played c3, attacking the knight and the rook at the same time. But I miss something in this position, and what I miss is that he can play this move, knight on e4. And if you take the rook, which is the best move, is going to check you and take the rook. So I was scared about that, but I shouldn't really add. So in this position I can just take the rook, the knight gives a check, and I play king on f8. If knight take, you also have bishop take on g2, so that's why it's not the best move. But let's say they take with the rook. This knight is really annoying, but you just play h6 and Stockfish thinks I have no problem. Although honestly, even knowing that, I still wouldn't play bishop takes on f7. This position looks really tricky to play and risky for black. So yeah, I wouldn't really play that. So now that I see the line, actually I'm happy I didn't take the rook. In this position I just castle, which makes a lot of sense honestly. I'm just connecting rooks, and you can't really win this rook at this point, and your is hanging. So he put pressure on this pawn, and now I should play h6. It's true, I should really play h6, but I could also play knight on d5, for example, but I didn't. And it has a point, so after you play this move, I just move the rook, and if you take, I take with the queen. Although I have to say that this basically wasted time. It was kind of a pointless move. I should really play h6, preventing this, or try to play knight on d5, so this was a mistake by me, obviously. My opponent takes the pawn now, which I thought it wasn't such a good move. In fact, I still don't think it is. I can just play knight on d5. Yeah, he has knight on g5, which I missed, but now this knight is pinned, I still up a pawn and I have 2 pass 1, so if we played a lot of pieces, I'm probably going to win the game. I miss that I can play knight on g5. Threatening mate. The only move I have, I can't play h6 because I get mated. He's playing g6 and after that he can withdraw the knight defending it. But obviously it's not the end of the world. And in this position I decide to take the knight. Because you can't take with the queen, because you lose the knight. You have to take with the knight and it is pinned. So I still have a lot to play in this position. Obviously it's still much better. I still up a pawn, I have to pass pawn. So that makes a lot of sense. But my opponent in this position took with the queen. And this is bad. Because the knight is hanging. It's true that you win 2 rooks, but you lost a knight and a queen with 2 rooks. So obviously I'm much better and this queen is just a monster. Honestly. Your rook, I haven't even connected, I have just bad rooks honestly, and for this reason it's almost -7, there is nothing you can do in this position. He tried rook on d1 in order to defend the pawn, but now I'm just threatening mate, and he played f6, and after f6, I mean, is the end. Queen on e3, and the best move is to play king on h1, and I really hoped he played that move, because in this position you can sack the bishop, which I mean is not a brilliant tactic, but it's quite cool to do that in a classical tournament. You just take whatever, they lose the rook and it's completely over. My opponent, although played the worst move, played king on f1, as now he's just mating 3, bishop on b5 check. I mean, obviously it was pissed about the mistake when he blundered the knight, and it's not really playing to win. He's just playing because he's mad, which makes sense. Honestly. So this was a pretty good game by me, I have to say. I just did a couple of mistakes. And next time, instead of being tricky, I'll be more positional and just play bishop on b5, so I just prevent castling, and I'm sure I'm a lot better for all the rest of the game. So obviously I learned something, despite the fact that I won the game. I play with 95% accuracy and just playing the best tournament of my life. Yeah, I'm really happy. And see you in the next game, which is also the last one. Can I win the tournament? We will see.